Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, Merry Christmas! I would have my lights on the tree, but well, the flashy thing sort of does something a bit weird with the camera. You know, actually, maybe it's not too bad. Yeah, I'll turn them off. Might should put them on at the end to see how it all goes. Anyway, so Doctor Who Unbound. I know it's not Christmas related, but I wanted to talk about these because I've been listening to these recently. Part of going through some big finishes I've got in order of release, apart from ones I've already heard. So I decided I wanted to talk about these. I did think about doing a video like this, and then I thought maybe I should do a live stream or chat with Matt discussing them, but he didn't feel up for doing one of those because it's not topical. For those like topicals in Series 11 or something, Series 11, Series 12 news, current affairs, etc. So he suggested just doing the normal videos. So with that out of the way, Doctor Who Unbound. And I've spent about a minute just babbling. So Doctor Who Unbound is basically a series by Big Finish that just basically what ifs. What if this happened, or what if this didn't happen, and so forth. Got 8 stories from them, 6 released in 2003, then 1 in 2006, I think, and 1 in 2008. Right, the stories are Auld, Mortality, Sympathy for the Devil, Full Fathom 5, Jest at Scars, Deadline, Exile, Storm of Angels, and Masters of War. Okay, I'll do a little bit on each one. Auld Mortality, starring Geffory Bayldon as the Doctor, basically is what if the Doctor never left Gallifrey? What if he just decided to stay on Gallifrey, become a Time Lord, and become a novelist? Well, this story kind of shows what would happen about 300 or so years later. He's now a famed novelist, and he uses this possibility engine machine to see what things could have been like on other planets, how things could have events could have played out. So, for example, Hannibal going through the rocks, going through the mountains to battle the Roman army, in one case. At this particular time, Susan has grown up and is a presidential candidate. I think she's going to become the president in the morning or something, or she's a candidate for the presidency, and she's come to visit her grandfather. However, the ghost of a relative of the Doctor, I'm not exactly sure what it was. It's been a few weeks since I heard this one. Either doesn't really like this or does like this or something, but isn't wanting to show it or something. I'm not really sure. I can't really remember. But point is, the Doctor and Susan just have an adventure inside the possibility engine. At the very end, it kind of does inspire the Doctor to go out and travel with Susan on adventures in time and space. Pretty much, so basically, what if the Doctor never left Gallifrey? And then at the end of this particular adventure, the Doctor does go out and go exploring. This will lead into Storm of Angels, as that is a follow-up story, but we'll get to that when we get to that one. And also a follow-up story, Masters of War, follows the next one, Sympathy for the Devil. And what that is, what if the Doctor wasn't Unit's scientific advisor? So we've basically had the first Doctor in Auld Mortality, and now we've got the third Doctor, or at least an unbound third Doctor, in this case, David Warner. He arrives in China, Hong Kong to be precise, 1997, just before the UK hands over Hong Kong to China. And so it's basically got that as the backdrop, and some aliens are in it that the Chinese government may or may not have had, or some defector guy from China to Britain who's now going back to China, or is it British who's going to Exile to China and then now going back to Britain. It's a bit weird, but you know, there's some aliens involved, alien tech, and the Master's also there, this time played by Mark Gatiss. And blimey, Mark Gatiss is great. He is great as the Master. And yeah, and similarly, David Warner is also really great. I also like Geffory Bayldon as well. I thought they were great Doctors, and I was glad to hear those two getting sequels to their respective stories. And Caroline Ford is back as Susan in Mortality, and similarly, Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart is back in this story, played by Nicholas Courtney. And the character is very different. There are references to stories from the 70s without the Doctor's involvement in those stories, and the Brigadier is now retired and disgraced a little bit, and now he's running a pub called Little England inside Hong Kong. There's also a gruff sergeant or captain unit guy played by David Tennant in this story, and Tennant is great. He is, wow, I don't know how to describe it. He's really great as this bastard, I suppose. I won't go that far, actually. I mean, he's a dick to start with, but he's okay later on. I do have to say with Sympathy for the Devil, the ending, I don't know what happens. I think Chinese and all the aliens attack Hong Kong and things go absolutely haywire. But the Doctor and the Brigadier have left by then, and the Brigadier decides to join the Doctor and in travelling in time and space. Yeah, it's a bit weird, and it seems that the Doctor is not stuck on Earth now with this, with his third incarnation. He seems to just be business as usual, I suppose, instead. But yeah, the ending just is a bit strange. I don't exactly know what happens. The Master's also caught up in this event. Of course, he's going to come back because David Warner's Unbound Doctor, after Masters of Earth, he's still going to pop up with Bernie Summerfield quite a bit as his Mark Gatiss's Master, and he's also now appearing in some of the main universe stories. The War Master with Derek Jacobi. He has or is going to meet Mark Gatiss's Master in the War Master box set 4. I think that's out now. I'm not quite sure. And now with the announcement of the Masterful box set, Mark Gatiss could be meeting some of the other Masters, perhaps. It depends on what they're doing with that box set. It's 8 discs, so it could be 8 individual stories. I don't know what they're planning with that. Or maybe it'd be something like The Legacy of Time, where it's 6 stories and all these Masters meet in the last story, perhaps. So it's likely Mark Gatiss could be meeting at least one other incarnation. Maybe he'll meet Derek Jacobi again. Maybe they'll interact again, like in the War Master 4. We'll see, but definitely Gatiss can interact with main universe, canon universe Master with Derek Jacobi's War Master. But so he definitely survives the events of this story because he's back with Bernie Summerfield's adventures up against her and David Warner's Doctor, and meeting the War Master from the main Doctor Who universe. But yeah, the ending of Sympathy of the Devil, just I have no idea what's going on. On to Full Fathom 5. Now this one is, what if the Doctor did agree that the end justified the means? So what if the Doctor was okay with violence? Or if the Doctor used force or killed people to keep his secrets hidden or to find out the truth or something? And this is an interesting direction, as the Doctor basically, he's still got morals, but he doesn't use them all the time, and sometimes the ends do justify the means for him. So it's similar to other characters would think. This time we've got David Coolings as the Doctor, and we've also got Siri O'Neill from the Unit audios, not the new series, the old ones, as his companion / friend, and they're trying to find out what happened to her father, as he's been this professor guy who's been disgraced for destroying a base or something. And throughout the audio we discovered that this general guy and this other scientist have been trying to use these other experiments, but the experiments sort of go just wrong. So they blow up the base, or that's what they plan to do, or well, not blow up, decontaminate the sea and make it look like Ruth, the Siri O'Neill's character, her father caused it all and disgraced him. So the Doctor and Ruth have to investigate what's going on with help from this submarine guy. It then turns out that the Doctor was there the whole time. He's left his TARDIS down there, which is the real reason he's gone back down. He doesn't want Ruth coming down at the start because of her safety, but later on it was all revealed that the Doctor killed her father, so that the father couldn't reveal secrets about what's going on down there, and the other scientist died from his experiments, and the general guy, who really is I have to say, he's a cunt throughout the past scenes. Throughout the scenes in the past, he's a cunt. However, he gets turned into one of these creatures, and he's actually sorry, I suppose, when we see him again in the present, although he does kill the submarine guy, I think. Or him or the Doctor does, anyway. With the truth revealed, Ruth, of course, now hates the Doctor and kills him. Yeah, ouch. And she also accepts to end the General's life because he can't live the way transforms into the creature. I do have to say one bit about that. The Ruth then goes on, because she knows the Doctor can regenerate. She then is prepared to kill every other single Doctor who regenerates. I don't know which incarnation David Collings is, but she's prepared to kill the rest of them, the ones that follow. I think that's going a bit too far. I can understand her killing David Collings' Doctor, but I think killing the rest, however many there are, is going a bit too far. I think that is one too many. Yeah, I don't even know if I like the idea of the Doctor killing this guy just because. I know he wants to keep the secret safe, but I don't know if I want the Doctor to kill him. Maybe, he can be blamed for it, but not to himself. I suppose it ties in with the concept. So yeah, full Fathom 5, I'm not the biggest fan of the story. I suppose maybe due to its direction. Not the direction of the audience, I mean just the story. Maybe the idea, I'm not sure. Maybe it's just that final twist, maybe that's what it was. And like I said, I think Ruth does go a bit too far. Killing David Collins' Doctor makes a lot of sense because he killed her father. Killing the rest of them, I think that's going a bit too far. Ian Brooker, I think, is the next one. And he's the Doctor with the least amount of time ever. Or at least in audio, at the very least. Well, literally only a couple of seconds, and then Ruth just kills him. Well, if this was a new series Doctor, he would probably reflect on that bullet and still live within that regeneration cycle. She'd just have to wait 15 hours. Yeah, and I don't think he'd be very happy with her. Yeah. As for which Doctors I would say they are, well, I'm going to go with 8 and 9, just to say, because 8 was the latest Doctor of the time. I honestly don't know where in a Doctor's timeline it is. And I'm just saying 8 and 9, question mark. Because I'm just going to say 8 and 9 just because 8 was the latest at the time, and 9 would be next. So, yeah. That's just me, though. It could be someone else. We're going to a definitive Doctor on the next one, the 6th Doctor, or rather the Valeyard. He just at Scars. Basically, is what if the Valeyard had won? What if the Valeyard had beaten the 6th Doctor, took his life and the lives of his remaining selves? I think the Valeyard would still be the 6th Doctor, although maybe if he absorbed his life like how Tremis was absorbed into the Master, he might regenerate into the 7th. And like the 2 10th Doctors, as established in the Time of the Doctor with the regeneration in Storm Earth Gems End, it could be just the same phase, but for 2 lives. But I think it's pretty much the 6th Doctor, still, just with Michael Jayston taking over Colin Baker's body. That was the 7th Doctor, after a regeneration. And, yeah, interesting concept where we see the Valeyard has won. And the Time Lords aren't exactly very happy about that. Once they realise what the Valeyard's up to, now he has the body of the Doctor. He's going around changing time, making things, doing things the Doctor would not have done, like use the weapon from the planet in Colony in Space. He used the Doomsday weapon, using that and doing a look. And there's a couple more references throughout from classic here series Doctor Who spread across there. And the Time Lords aren't really liking what's going on now that they know he's up to this, so they get, after showing Mel in the Matrix what's going on, Mel again, played by Bonnie Langford, and the Valeyard played by Michael Jayston. They show what's going on, and then they get killed. So Mel has to somehow go and kill the Valeyard. In the end, she finds out that the Valeyard's just this weak guy. He's a bit weak, and something happens and they get trapped together. I don't know if this is all in the Matrix and all this, and then in reality, the Valeyard is trapped. It's again a confusing ending. The endings are hit and miss with these ones. I think all the Morality's one. I think that's a good ending. Sympathy of the Devils was a questionable ending. Full Fathom 5 is a questionable ending, and this one is a questionable ending. What is going on? I think they get trapped at the end. Yeah. Also, Mel kills a guy at one point just because. It's a creature from Warriors Gate. Well, I hate that story anyway, but not the creatures. I don't really care about them. But Mel kills a guy just because he was annoying her. Well, to be honest, maybe I would have as well. But wow. Yeah. I thought this was if the Valeyard had won, not if the ends justified the means. Wink. But yeah, this one's an odd one. Okay, I'm now going to take a break to listen to Omega, which was the next audio in the order of listening, and then I'm going to get back to the Unbound series and continue that series before listening to the next audio in the order that I need to listen. Break's over. Okay, the next one is Deadline, and this is a very different story to the others. This one is basically what if Doctor Who was never made. This one it centres on this writer played by Derek Jacobi, and he's basically wondering because he hasn't really had the best life. He wanted to be the greatest writer that ever lived, but he's got. When he tried working as a playwright, but then when he tried going for television, he was stuck on this 70s cop show that he tried about a female cop, police detective, which was probably ahead of its time at the time. He hated working on that, but on reflection, he's wondering whether maybe he should have made what. And on reflecting, he's wondering, what if Doctor Who had got made and he was supposed to write the first episode, so basically an earthly child, if he had written that, could his career have gotten better, perhaps? I don't know how Anthony Coburn feels. But yeah, that's an interesting concept, and he's not really a fan of the show he did write for, and the fans don't really like his episodes. The fan actually does come to have an interview with him, and just to try and defend the guy, but of course the writer isn't a very nice person. He's a very grumpy guy, and the fan pretty much reveals how the audience consider his stories some of the worst in the series, including the one the writer considers his best. And he does have some repetitiveness. Not to mention he has some personal family crisis. His son comes over and lies about his mother dying. And then saying that she hasn't, and that he's got himself a family, but things aren't going very well. The writer himself has had 3 wives, one of them with a daughter, the middle one with a daughter, and a son with a child. And he's left each of them for another woman. Well, apart from the last one, I think she might have died. So I think she might have died already. Either widowed or they divorced as well. Not surprised. And like I said, his son is having problems with his family as well. We've got this don't really care about playing my video games grandson of our main character at the very end. Not really fond of that character. And also this fellow, I think it's in a retirement home, fellow retirement person played by Jacqueline King, who will go on to play Donna's mother in the new series. And at the same time, he's also kind of imagining how stories could take place with him as the Doctor, and Gwendolyn Sullivan, I believe, as Susan. A bit more of a young, energetic, and more excitable, and also a little bit more obnoxious Susan to Caroline Ford's version. I suppose that's how he imagined it, to be honest. And sort of influences other people into these stories. And at the very end, I actually don't know what happens. His dreams sort of take over from reality. And he, as the Doctor and Susan go off flying throughout time and space in the TARDIS. But what's really happening is that the writer is locking himself in the cupboard. I'm not really sure what is going on at the very end. The rest of the story is amazing, but it seems that, I don't know what it is, but I think endings just seem to be the problem with these stories. They have great ideas, they're great scripts, but apart from the first one, endings seem to be a bit of a struggle. Maybe this one's a bit more of a metaphorical one than a literal ending, but it's still confusing as hell. It's better than some of the other ones I can't get my head round, but still very confusing. The last one in the main series, the first 6 releases, is Exile, and oh my god. This is basically if the Doctor had escaped justice from the Time Lords, just run away to Earth and hidden herself, as we got our first female incarnation of the Unbound series, played by Arabella Weir. Again, this is the third Doctor. I suppose Derek Jacobi will be the first as well. So lots of first and third Doctors with 6, and I'm not sure where David Collings came in. That's why I put him as 8. I'll have to check up later on the wiki page. But Jesus Christ, all that happens in this story is, well, also you got the second Doctor played by Nicholas Briggs trying to be Patrick Troughton. But anyway, what all this happens is the Doctor is now, she's working at Sainsbury's and she now goes to the pub with mates. That's pretty much it. It's pretty much the plot, and also the second Doctor, or the memory of the second Doctor, tried interfering a few times. Yeah, and oh god, and at the same time, some of these Time Lords, the ones we'll probably see from the War Games, including David Tennant as one of them again, the second of the 3 Time Lords, they're trying to catch her so that they can get promoted to a less, well, as far as the rest of us are concerned, a less exciting job. But to them, it's, the less exciting job seems more up their street, I guess. But yeah, but basically all that happens in this story is just the Doctor, now played by Arabella Weir, works at Sainsbury's and then goes down the pub with 2 mates and gets so drunk she burps and throws up a lot and has a lot of a hangover. Well, you would get hangover when being drunk all the bloody time, wouldn't you? Whilst the second Doctor just babbles at her, has a go at her at times and babbles at others, and then these other 3 Time Lords just try and catch and stuff. It is interesting seeing the Time Lords adapting to human lives and not really understanding everything, and even having a nice little reference to the Max Headroom broadcast interruption that interrupted Horror Fang Rock in a repeat broadcast on a Chicago television station in 1987. There's a nice little reference to that. Unlike that, a real life example, no one really takes any notice of it. They get so annoyed. And then they set up a trap for the Doctor when they find her TARDIS, and when she goes down to find the TARDIS, they set up the trap and take her back to Gallifrey for trial. And then they basically just let her go. They say they're going to execute her, but then they just say, oh, you're trapped in your TARDIS. Any attempt to dematerialize, you're dead. And then the Doctor finds a note from them saying, oh, we don't really care, just go away, just do what you want. Bye. You're not really going to die, just go, bye. And she does. Yeah. Okay, the ending for this one's not as bad as some of the other ones, but the rest of it, I can't believe I'm actually thinking this. I thought this when I was listening to the audio. Can't believe I actually thought it, and I'm about to say it, but I actually think the Doctor being a prostitute would be more tasteful. I can't believe I've actually thought that when I was listening to the audio. But honestly, I think that would be more tasteful and less disrespectful than this. This one just, you could at least explore some avenues with it. This one you can't. This one just doesn't work. It's a nice idea, but on paper, but on execution, it doesn't work. At least the other ones, they worked on paper and in execution. They may not have worked completely in execution, but they at least worked. This one doesn't. This one is a mess. This one is very problematic. And I'm sorry for thinking the other idea. I'm sorry. But honestly, it would have been a better story than this. Oh God, I can't believe I think that. God, what's wrong with me? Okay, we'll have to move on before getting into even more trouble. Okay, on to Storm of Angels, and now the main 6 are basically hour long, or 60 to 80 minutes in length. With the next 2, we got more 2 hours to 2.5 hour long stories. Instead, they now treated them more like the normal main range stories as opposed to the special standalone ones. So now we've got Storm of Angels, which is a 4-parter, and I suppose in a 30 to 40 minute long episodes. I think the last one might even be 40 to 45, to be honest. But anyways, it's the sequel to Auld Mortality, so Geffory Bayldon and Caroline Ford can continue. Turns out Susan didn't actually join the TARDIS, and the Doctor created a robot version based on her. Susan became president of Gallifrey, and she's pissed with the Doctor, as this story is about the Doctor changing time just a little bit, but unlike William Hartnell's Doctor, where he's like, you can't change history, not one line, and when they do change history, the Doctor knows what he's doing, as the Ninth Doctor says, I know what I'm doing, you don't, in Father's Day. This time round, Geffory Bayldon's Doctor is changing time quite a bit, maybe not by purpose in some cases, but accidentally, and and that causes time to change, so Earth gets a lot of space technology, meaning the Golden Hind goes into space, and that's where the Doctor and robot Susan end up, and on the Golden Hind, facing the Mayans, who've also got their spaceships, and they've also got this agent from, I'm not the Celestial Agency, Intervention Agency, just an agent behind them, trying to chase them down, and the Doctor kind of damages both TARDISes to get them away, and the agent finds his way onto the ship as well. He finds his way onto the Mayan ship, and then he's captured by the Golden Hind crew, including a really dashing Sir Francis Drake and a really dickish Doctor. Fuck, I've forgotten his name. At the same time, this Doctor guy, Dr. Adams, Dr. Smith, something, Dr. Adam Smith or something, I don't know, not Dr. Adam Smith, what am I saying? Dr. something, not the Doctor, Dr. something else, has gotten in touch with these angel creatures, and they want to get to Earth to meet Gloriana, Queen Elizabeth I, played by a different actress this time round, again, and I say different actress because we've literally had 3 actresses of Queen Elizabeth I on the TV show. But yeah, they want to go to Earth, and they meet Queen Elizabeth on her big giant palace space station. And yeah, I don't really understand what the plot is. The angels want to go to Earth for reasons, and they turn the agent into this sort of representative, and he's in love with Gloriana, but not romantically, just kind of obsessed with her a little bit. And it's just a bit crazy, and it doesn't happen. And when it couldn't get any more crazy, a real Susan turns up, reveals the other one is a robot and is a duplicate, and everyone sort of bands together to save the day or something. A couple of people get killed, including Doctor, can't remember his name, and also this nice, I think he's Indian or Pakistani servant guy, head of the spaceship household thingy midget guy. He gets killed off. Sadly, he was nice. But yeah, it's just a bit confusing. And what happens at the end? I think the Doctor and one of the Susans goes back and goes travelling, whilst the other one goes back to Gallifrey. Yeah, I don't remember what this one's about. I think I wasn't really a fan of this one. Well, it's not to start with. I think the last episode or 2 were okay, but I wasn't really keen on the first ones. The first one, I think it just went on and on until finally we got the bloody cliffhanger. That does not bode well for the rest of the story. Thankfully, the rest of the story was able to pick up a bit more. So that was Storm of Angels. Not a fan of that one either. It's better than Exile, and I think I like it more than Full Fathom 5. But that's not better. But it still takes its time to get started. Thankfully, something a bit more good, and actually something a bit more interesting. Masters of War, the last one, which serves as a sequel to Sympathy for the Devil, featuring David Warner and Nicholas Courtney. And also, the Daleks are in this properly, not like an alternative version of the Daleks, as we see in Auld, Mortality, and Storm of Angels, or mentioned at one other point. I think maybe in Deadline. I'm not sure. Daleks are sort of mentioned, I think, in Exile, though the Quarks seem to be more of the main villain to worry about in that story. Okay, for some reason in the Exile universe, the Quarks are the big bads. And I think Daleks were referenced in Sympathy for the Devil. Certainly mentioned here that the Brigadier had fought them before See Day of the Daleks, but without the Doctor. Although, mind you, would that have happened if the Doctor had not interfered, if the Daleks would have time travelled? But anyway, the Doctor and the Brigadier land on Skaro, and they discover that the Daleks have repressed the files. So the Doctor joins these bands of rebel files to fight off the Daleks, and he accidentally causes one, not accidentally on purpose, causes one to think it's Davros, the creator of the Daleks, to go against the Black Dalek, the leader. However, it's revealed that towards the end of episode 1, this one's like when Big Finish tried to do the 45-minute episodes, similar to season 22. Usual 25-minute episodes of the classic series transferred to Big Finish when they tried to do them usually get 20 to 50 minutes, usually around the 30 to 40 mark. And when they try to do them based on the 45-minute length episodes, then they're usually about an hour and a quarter ish. So, yeah, in this case, that's pretty much what they do, more or less. And towards the end of episode 1, it's revealed that the Daleks were actually here to protect the files from a new race of foes, and I wasn't surprised, but I was still happy to hear it, that these guys are teaming up with Davros. And then part 2 is a complete change in direction. It's a complete 180 to what's just happened in the first episode. And that keeps the story interesting, moving and flowing. That is really good. And secrets and truths and reveals in part 2, as well as an uneasy Dalek file partnership, in a way, and a satisfying conclusion. This is probably the best ending of any of the Unbound stories. I did like the Deadline one, but I couldn't get my head around it. And All Mortality is pretty good. And Exile's, the ending was probably the best thing of that story, on a story basis. But I think out of all 8 of these, Masters of War has the most satisfying ending. It is a very good ending. Davros sacrificing himself to stop these creatures who have been basically lying to him, as they've been the ones who sort of, in this universe, they kind of kick-started the File War. The Dalek File War, Cardiff File War, and then caused Davros to create the Daleks. I mean, it blew off his legs as well, arms, legs, and so caused so much pain for these guys. So this is all really interesting, and these weird creatures, they also sound, I'm not sure how I describe the voices. The sounds like some of the typical 60s, 70s voices, a mix between, I think, that's it, Spiridons. They sound like Spiridons from Planet of the Daleks, maybe with a touch of Ice War and Zygon. But yeah, they're interesting characters, and they're villains, and they think of logic, and they're apparently from a parallel universe that can be accessed from Skaro. So another Unbound universe, possibly, maybe. Maybe it's one of the ones that haven't got a sequel. Maybe they've got some sort of connection. Remember, David Warner's Doctor's the only one that actually goes anywhere beyond 2 audios. But yeah, the interesting guy. And the ending, after Davros sacrifices himself, the Daleks and Files have to sort of work out a way to live together, and the Brigadier decides he's going to stay around to make sure both live in peace. And the Doctor goes off on his own. And as the Brigadier says, he feels like he's making up for lost time, presumably because he wasn't there in the 70s or 80s to help fight off the villains as seen in the John Pertwee, Tom Baker stories. So yeah, Masters of War, I think this was a very satisfying story. I think a very good story with a very satisfying ending, and I like how it does a complete 180 midway through. That is how you keep interest. Storm of Angels didn't really keep me that interested that much. There was a few good twists and turns in there, But Masters of War, that is a really great story. So, okay, in conclusion, the Doctor Unbound series is full of, contains a couple of good stories and a couple of not so good stories. Depending on how you feel about some of these what ifs, I don't know what I would say Masters of War is a what if. What if the Daleks protected the files from an even worse race? But yeah, it's a good series. It depends on your taste, what you feel like. If you're up for a story where, what if the Doctor never left Gallifrey, or what if he decided to interfere a bit more than he normally does, then check out the two Geffory Bayldon stories. If you prefer, what if the Doctor doesn't help UNIT out before 1997, what if he came 20, 30 years too late? Or if you prefer, what if the Daleks and the Files teamed up to fight a bigger enemy, then check out the two David Warner stories. If you prefer, what if the Doctor, if the means justified the ends for the Doctor, then check out David Cooling's one. Check out the Valeyard one if you want to see how things could have gone if he won. Exile if you want to listen to what if the Doctor escaped, ran away from justice from the Time Lords and got completely pissed in the process. But the most interesting one is probably Deadline, because that is what if Doctor Who was never made and this writer's career went downhill, and could Doctor Who have saved it? Could he have been as bitter of a man as he actually is now, or would he have been a much nicer person? Some very interesting concepts and some very interesting ideas. For me, the best story featuring the Doctor, not a dream from the writer, is Sympathy for the Devil, although I think the best story overall is Deadline, but I think the best one with a Doctor is Sympathy for the Devil. I would also say Masters of War has the best ending. Best opening, possibly Auld Mortality? Probably, yeah. But yeah, some good stuff in here. If I was to do scores and ranking, well, Auld Mortality, I would give an 8 out of 10. Sympathy for the Devil, I would give a 9. It could have been a 10 if that ending was better. I think Full Fathom 5 would be a 6 or a 7. I'll go with a 7. No, I'll go with 6. And Jest at Scars, go with a 7. Deadline would probably be a 10. Then Exile would be an easy 5. Then Storm of Angels would be a 7. And finally, Masters of War would probably also be a 10, actually. I think I'll go with a 10. Actually, so in that case, that one's the best one with a Doctor. Not in the mind of the writer. And to do a ranking, 8 would be Exile, 7 would be Full Fathom 5, that's just me personally. 6 would be Jest at Scars. 5 would be Storm of Angels. 4, Auld Mortality. 3, Sympathy for the Devil. 2 would be Masters of War. And 1 would be Deadline. So Robert Shearman, once again, has the best story of this series. However, I think the David Warner stories are the best one featuring an actual Doctor. Especially his second one. As Deadline just has the writer, the main character, thinking of himself as the Doctor. But with the Doctor, the actual Doctor, it's the David Warner Doctor story. And it's no wonder he got more stories with Bernie Summerfield. In Bernie Summerfield stories with him, and also his master, played by Mark Gatiss. So that's cool. And then the next 2 would be the 2 Geffory Bayldon stories, and then the rest. I just don't think the other 3 stories are as good as the Bayldon, Warner, or stories, or Deadline. Storm of Angels isn't even that great, but out of my bottom 4, I think Storm of Angels is still the strongest. As for Best Doctor, well, and I'm including Derek Jacobi, so I would say, I would go even Ian Brooker, David Coolings, Michael Jayston, Arabella Weir, Geffory Bayldon, Michael Jayston as the Valeyard, Derek Jacobi as the main character of Deadline, as also his Doctor that he's play that the main character puts himself in the Doctor's position, and David Warner would then be my number one Doctor. So David Warner is my favourite of the Doctors, though Derek Jacobi, possibly the best actor, but I prefer Warner's Doctor. But yeah, also it's great to hear Caroline Ford, Nicholas Courtney, Bonnie Langford, and Terry Malloy as their characters from the show in these positions. You've still got Susan, the Brigadier, Mel, and Davros, plus Nicholas Briggs as the voice of the Daleks and other versions of the Daleks in other universes. So that's good. And other new cast members are also really good in their respective roles, especially Jacqueline King as her character in Deadline, and Siri O'Neill in Full Fathom 5, despite what I think happens with her at the end. Gwendoline Somerville is okay as the more obnoxious younger Susan in Deadline. I think there's some pretty good characters and actors in the David Warner and Geffory Bayldon stories. Yeah, some pretty interesting. There's also some interesting Time Lord characters. I particularly love how David Tennant is in two stories, and he's playing two completely different people, and he's so funny in both. And he's a bit of a dick in the first one of them, but he gets likeable later. In the second one, he's so hilarious. Yeah. Oh, if imagine they did a 7th Unbound story where he was the 10th Doctor. Oh, what a universe that would be. Oh wait, the main series did that. Oh, good. We get even more Tennant. Okay, so to wrap things off, Unbound series, great series, and I think you'll like at least one of these stories. Try them out, check them out, see what you think of them. Maybe you'll have a different response to me. Maybe you'll like more how they did Full Fathom 5 more than I did. Maybe you'll like Masters of War or Sympathy for the Devil or Auld Mortality less, perhaps. Maybe you think they're not so good. But yeah, it's a recommendation. Check them out if you want to and see what you think. Deadline is definitely a recommendation, especially if you're Robert Sherman fans or you want to listen to all the Robert Sherman audio stories. And yeah, and if you like David Warner's adventures in the Bernie Summerfield audios, I haven't checked those out yet. But if you've heard those and you like them, then definitely check out his two Unbound audios here. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you for watching this video. Sorry if it goes on a bit too long. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel.
And they were Maud Audacity? It's better. Excuse me. This is What If the Doctor? No. Played by Jacqueline Pierce? No, not Jacqueline. Jacqueline King, who goes on to be Donna's mother in series 2 and 4. Played by Jacqueline Rayner. Yeah, no. Yes? I think. Played by the... hang on, let me check that. I honestly think the Doctor being a prostitute would be less... Well, would be more tasteful. So, yeah. This one is a bit like some of the Colin Baker stories, or they'll do Normal 25-minute ones are in similar for Doctor Who Classic Series ones out of 25 minutes would usually get the 30 to 40-minute length for the normal story. Would usually get the 20 to 40 minutes. Then they're usually about 2.25 hours. Presumably the last time what if the Doctor met Davros early? I'm not sure what it's a what if for, but let's say what if the Daleks helped the Thal? Maybe what if the Daleks and the Thals teamed up to fight a bigger enemy, and maybe what if the Thals and the Daleks teamed up to fight a bigger enemy, perhaps. Or if you prefer, what if you... I'm going to go... For me, the best story is probably Sympathy for the Devil. No, and to do a ranking, 8 Exile, 5 Full Fathom, 5. That's just me personally. And I think that's still the strongest of my top 4, bottom 4. But out of my top, and there's some likeable people. Deadline is definitely a recommendation, especially if you're Robert Shearman fans. So yeah, that's really cool. Or check. That is definitely way too long.